Hello and welcome to another episode of Village Living and Innovation. I am Anele Omango please, and thank you very much for joining me for this episode. If this is your first time, welcome back. If you've watched my other episodes, this episode is sort of a tutorial or a how-to video. I'm going to be showing you how I make my aloe vera juice now. So I make my own aloe vera juice now. For my cosmetic products, I started making cosmetic products 5 years ago. We recently published a blog post about our 5 years. I'll link it here somewhere, or I'll add a screenshot somewhere. But the long-term vision of Earthly Q for me has always been to source some of the raw materials from my village and source the active ingredients from other suppliers like S31 Naturals or Essentially Naturals. There's also Faithful to Nature, but they don't have as many cosmetic ingredients. They just have natural and organic finished products on their store. So I'm on a journey to I can now create my own aloe vera juice. Here's the sample. So here's how it looks. Now I'm pretty I'm satisfied with how it looks. It's just like a bit of filtering that needs to happen in between, but I'll show you how I get through it. And then also I'll be making a soap, and yeah, we'll see if I get through to making the bath salts and the body scrub. Bath salts and body scrubs are the easiest products to make when you want to enter the skincare industry, especially. And then aloe, stuff like aloe water, is good if you can source the ingredients yourself. But if you're going to be buying the ingredients from somebody else, it can be a bit pricey, because I think the last time I checked on S31 Naturals, a liter of the aloe vera juice that they supply was about 300. So it does become pricey if you want to resell. At a minimum, you'd have to sell the aloe water for 50 rand, considering packaging and labeling. So it's just easier if you can make it yourself. So now that my aloe is mature enough, I planted the aloe like a year and a half ago, and now it's mature. I also have castor plants that I planted last spring that are giving fruit now. So in another episode, I'll show you how to make castor oil. And then at home, we also have a neem tree, and in that video where I do the oil, I'll show you how to make castor oil and neem oil, not neem infused oil, just neem oil from the neem kernel or neem seed. But yeah, thank you for joining me for this episode, and I hope you enjoy. Hopefully it won't be too long, because I'm known to be a rambler. Enjoy. This is how the castor plant looks. I got the seeds from that tree. That's how big it can get. And then I replanted some of the seeds here. So these are ready to harvest, and those aren't. You see they're still budding, but they're almost ready. The ones at the top are almost ready, and this is also ready to be picked. This is not quite ready, but it's almost. And I think what is nice about summer castor seeds is that it gives more seeds. I'm not sure if it's because of the moisture or what, but it gives more seeds. And yeah, this is the aloe. I planted it a while back, and I've propagated others from this. Like you can see here already, this is the main one, and then there's one on the side, and then there's two more over there. There's the other. Oh my gosh, this is painful. the things we do for content. But there's 2 more or 3 more growing over there, and I need to propagate those. But for now, I'm just harvesting. I'm not sure why I didn't wear my gloves for this actually, because aloe is prickly, so you just like cut it at the base. Don't cut too deep like I did, because it kind of damages the main root of the aloe. But cut it at the base so that it comes out with the white stuff like this. This is a perfect extraction or harvest. But the leaf is not so perfect, and then you just go around and harvest. I've harvested this plant a couple of times before while doing a tester, like tester aloe vera, to see how long it lasts. For home testing of how long, look at how juicy this is. If you want to home test how the shelf life of a homemade product, you can do a freeze and thaw test. I can share more about that like later. Yeah, and then I just rinse off the leaves. It will ooze up some yellow sap. I think it's called aloe or something like that, but it's yellow. It's bitter. Apparently it's what makes aloe bitter, so you just want to remove that from the leaves and remove any dirt and soil that might have gotten on the leaves while it was growing. Yeah, I just put them on the side to dry off a bit, to not get confused. But as it's sitting there, the water starts becoming a bit yellow. You can see this aloe thing that I'm talking about here. It's a really thick or bright yellow. And then we move on to like the actual extraction, and there I'm going to be using this. It's a silicone mat. It sticks on the thing just to ensure or try and ensure cleanliness. The surface top is also clean, but it's just to designate workspace. So I'm going to separate the leaves and put them in a different jar. I need a separate jar for the leaves, and then I need a different jar for the gel, which I'm going to use for the juice. This is a method that I learned from this Australian lady. She has such a wide variety of recipes. But you just trim off the sides. You cut the top because it doesn't have much gel. I was just cutting off the spiky parts and removing the sides. The leaves I'm going to use for an infusion. I want to do a coconut oil that is infused with aloe vera leaves. So I cut the tops and then I turn them around so that the aloe can drain on the opposite side again. And then here's how you separate it. You use a spoon and not a knife, and you kind of remove the top, and you kind of have to be a surgeon about it. But once the spoon is helpful because it doesn't cut the leaf, but it also doesn't like mess up the gel, because as you're removing the leaf, the gel can gel and not become a fillet. You'll see what I mean by fillet. So I remove this leaf and I try and scrape off the remaining gel on the leaf, but I quickly realized this takes too much effort. Like, I'm not willing to work that hard for this gel. I've got plenty outside. Hello and thank you. But like, I'm not gonna be doing that. It's too much work. And then you turn the spoon. They say turn the spoon around, but for me this also works. Just started off with a knife. I tried with the knife and it ended up just being a mess, so I went back to using a spoon and just like scooping up the fillets, and there it is. A wubba dub dab, it's like a fish. Yeah, and then I just do the rest of them because I've already removed the sides. I'm not working this hard for gel. Like the first leaf, I was trying to get everything, conserve everything, but it will become compost and it will come back to life, honestly. So I just did the rest of the leaves the same way or a similar way with a spoon. If you want to try this at home, you can, yeah, experiment. Just scraping or extracting the gel of the last few leaves, and then I put it through a blender. I add half and half, 1:1 ratio with water. I use distilled water and I measure it out because it's a bit difficult to blend, and I'm trying to make a juice and not a gel. So a 1:1 ratio with the gel works. So yeah, I just blended that and I put that to the side, and then I had to get started with the soap. Child, oh child. I'm a little bit nervous because I've never made a soap before, and now I'm doing it on screen, but let's just get started. So I measured out the oils, which are soy wax, grapeseed oil, almond nut oil, and coconut oil, and then I let those melt on the side. And while those were melting, these are the oils, and then while those were melting, I started getting ready with the sodium hydroxide, which is what makes the castile. And this has to sit a little bit because it's a exothermic reaction. It like lets out a lot of heat. It's steaming now because it's really hot to touch, and you should really avoid letting it touch you at all, and you should always mix it caustic soda to water, not water to caustic soda, because uzoshona, you will die a very real death. So after this had cooled down a bit, I mixed it in with the oils. I didn't capture that part, and then I blended it. I also added a bit of a bentonite clay, which is why it looks like this. It looks like a bit earthy because I added a bit of bentonite clay. My plug stopped working, so I have to move here every time I blend, and then I move it back on heat. Like now I'm stirring and you can't see me, but I have to now pour it into the mold. But I forgot to pH test. You have to pH test your soaps. So before you get started with making soaps, you really have to learn how to and what the dangers are, because it can be dangerous. It has to be the right pH. So I thought this was okay. And then I poured it out. I didn't want it to be too thick before I poured it out, only for me to pH test it already in the mold and realize that, oh my gosh, like the pH is way out of range. And then I just put it back on heat, and I added a bit of citric acid, which is, it's like a salt, but what it actually does is it lowers the pH of the soap or whatever product you're working with, even for other formulations that you're doing. I was just trying to come up with a shape liner and it wasn't working, and after all of that trying to make a shape, I realized it ain't right. I I tried to come up with a design and stuff, and it really wasn't working, but I will show you the finished product in a separate video. Because I had to do the pH testing. I'll also talk a bit more about the pH testing and the caustic sodaing. If anybody's interested in a formula, I can share a formula in the description below, and then also share the store for Isivuno Naturals. So the soap is kind of ready. Let me just show you how well it foams. In the jar, I've got water, and then I've just like used a bit of soap from there, and then it lathers quite well. And yeah, actually, I think it will be okay. It's moisturizing, but I realized the pH is off as I was washing because my hands felt a bit tight. I'm not sure how to explain that. And then I had to pour the whole thing out. After demonstrating how well it works, I had to pour the whole thing out and start over. I use a pH meter for my liquid products, but for stuff like this, I use these pH strips from Clicks, and it turned blue immediately, so I had to pour it back out into the pot and cook it again for another like hour or two, and then I added citric acid as well. I didn't record the parts of it where I put it back in the pot and how thick it got, but hopefully I'll be able to share that in a separate video where I'm re-recording the cutting and making a new soap. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for joining me. See you next time, and subscribe. Please subscribe and like, and you know the things, you know the drill. Thank you. Bye.